So before we get into tasting actual beer, let's talk about how we taste. And really, when we talk about taste, we're talking about flavor. But the reality is, no one's probably going to say to you, "Hey, I was just at a wine flavoring last night," and so we'll use tasting and taste just to stay on the right side of the law. And so, flavor is an image constructed in the brain from a series of inputs. Those primarily would be the olfactory senses, secondarily, taste itself, and then tertiarily, we're looking at sight, sound, and touch. And so for taste, taste is a chemical reaction between specific molecules and receptors, which are actually found through the whole body, but primarily on the tongue, and that's what we're concerned with. And so you probably remember the old tongue map, which incidentally is a myth, but it was, it had salty on the tip and bitter at the back or whatever. This was a miscommunication, misinterpretation, mistranslation. It's prevailed for years. It's still around somehow. But the reality is the taste buds are distributed through the whole tongue, and those receptors are also distributed across the whole tongue. It's not quite universal. There is a higher concentration of certain things in certain areas. So bitterness, there are a higher concentration of bitterness receptors at the back, but they still exist all throughout the tongue, the tip, the sides, the middle, and places where that map indicates they should not be. And so that's taste. It's bitter, sweet, salty, sour, and umami. There are some emerging tastes that research is being done on, and they're looking at receptors for things like calcium ions, specific amino acids, and fat. But for now, we're going to stick with the 5 established tastes. Tertiarily, there are sight, sound, and touch, as mentioned. Sight really is just a function of a predetermination. People are highly suggestible, of course, and so if we see something a candy that's red, we're not expecting it to taste like lime. There's an interesting experiment where they took wine experts, so not lay people, but wine experts, and gave them white wine, which they dyed red. And these experts were picking up notes of things like blackberry and leather and all kinds of stuff that has no business being in white wine and probably wasn't there. And it was just because they'd already constructed this image now that it was a red wine. When we talk about sound and touch, they're semi-related because we're not really talking about fingertip touch necessarily, but like if you think about the crunch of a potato chip, that gives us some feedback. It's both mechanical and auditory, and it's telling us, oh, this is a nice crunchy potato chip. If it were soggy, not only would it probably be an unpleasant experience, but you probably wouldn't get that same flavor image constructed. It would be failing a little bit. The same thing if mashed potatoes were crunchy or whatnot. And so the sound probably plays, it's probably the lowest on the totem pole, but it is related to that touch. And so moving to the olfactory senses, which are the primary, a good test just to see how important these are, they call it the jelly bean test. It could do it with anything, but I think a jelly bean is just accessible and ubiquitous. And so assuming that it's not something funny like a Harry Potter jelly bean, you plug your nose, put the jelly bean in your mouth, keep your nose plugged, chew it up, and then see sort of what you're getting. And the sensory feedback you really should be getting is just sweet and probably a bit of tartness. Let's be realistic, because I mean, most fruit's going to have a little bit of tartness and they're trying to mimic those flavors. Then when you go to swallow it, unplug your nose. You'll get a rush of air coming up back through the back of the throat and up through the nose. That's called retronasal. It's going to flood the olfactory senses with aroma molecules, and instantly you're going to get a flavor image, and you're going to know, assuming you're familiar with the flavor, that it's cherry or lime or pear or something like that. And so that really indicates how important olfactory is in the construction of the flavor image. And so putting all those things together, we get our flavor. It's no different with beer. Auditory is going to be the glug. We're going to look at the beer and say, oh man, that's dark. It's got to be roasty. Or it's light. It's going to be slightly bitter, but not roasty at all. So we're going to have that predetermination that we're going to have to deal with, that preconception. And then we spend a lot of time with our nose in the glass, as you're going to see. And hopefully we'll see you next time when we start tasting some beer.